The Trump administration has found a clever new way to push international students out of the country without technically deporting them. It's part of the administration's ongoing attack on higher education and involves exploiting the complexities of the student visa system in a way that makes staying here so confusing, risky, and legally precarious that international students are all but forced to leave on their own. It hinges on a policy called prudential visa revocation, which lets the State Department cancel visas based on basically whatever they want. Some of these visas have been revoked because of so-called foreign policy or national security interests. In a fact sheet released by the White House about the administration's attempt to combat anti-Semitism on college campuses, it warns, "We will find you and we will deport you. I will also quickly cancel the student visas of all Hamas sympathizers on college campuses, which have been infested with radicalism like never before." But it's become increasingly clear in the past few weeks that anti-Semitism is not the only grounds for dismissal the State Department is leveraging. There have been over 1,700 confirmed instances, and estimates as high as 5,000 of students having their visas revoked. Often, a student is just going about their life and receives an email out of nowhere saying their visa's been revoked. Maybe it says, "We received new information about you," but it often doesn't explain what that information is or provide any other reasoning for the decision. That's because the State Department has argued that prudential visa revocation allows them to cancel visas for past arrests or criminal charges, even those that didn't lead to convictions. So really, any encounter with law enforcement. Upon looking into it further, some students found they had their status removed for getting a speeding ticket or being part of a group that caught more fish than their fishing license allowed. That guy wasn't even the one who caught the fish. It's ridiculous. So students are then going to their universities and asking, what's going on here? The universities then go into what's called the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, or SEVIS, which contains the records of a student's lawful non-immigrant status. Basically, it verifies an international student's eligibility to study in the States. However, universities are logging in and finding the student's SEVIS records have been terminated. That's because often at the same time the State Department revokes the visa, or shortly thereafter, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, finding the student has failed to maintain their status or violated the terms of their admission, goes in and terminates it. That's what makes this round of SEVIS terminations different. Typically, a SEVIS record is only terminated if a student has done something like drop below the necessary course load without approval, or done some kind of unauthorized work. But crucially, it is usually the university, not the government, that terminates the record. Not this time. And the government isn't telling universities when it's doing so. University workers are just finding out on their own by randomly checking or by hearing from confused international students. And so universities are just as confused because SEVIS records should reflect a student's lawful non-immigrant status. But the Department of Homeland Security has now recently argued in court proceedings that changes to SEVIS have no bearing on a student's lawful non-immigrant status. This came as a big shock to those students who had been advised by ICE that they were out of status. That's in fact why Tufts University doctoral candidate Rumeysa Öztürk was surrounded on the street by masked federal agents, despite the fact her visa had only been removed 4 days earlier and she had not yet received notice. Many students, fearing the same treatment, are doing what they're told, even if how the government is doing it is incredibly dubious. The entire process relies on sowing confusion and administrative chaos to induce increased self-deportation numbers, probably because the administration's finding out just how expensive it is to conduct the mass deportations they promised. They're banking on students' ignorance of the complex legal, immigration, and education systems and hoping they just give up. Luckily, some students are suing and are having their visas reinstated, like that guy whose friends caught too many fish. But many international students will not be so lucky. Legally, this isn't the typical deportation process. But when deportation is threatened if students don't leave of their own accord, it's just one step removed. It's like holding a gun to someone's head and saying, "I'll give you a head start."